What's up, everyone? Curtis here with another episode of Everything Entrepreneurial. In this episode, I'm speaking with Sandra Maybury. Sandra is the founder of Maybury Marketing, and she works with small and medium-sized organisations to help them reconnect with existing customers, reach new audiences, build their brand, get their message out there, and ultimately grow sales. Okay, let's get straight into the episode.
Right, so, well, Sandra, thanks very much for taking the time out of your day to come on the podcast. Would you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do, please?
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Curtis. I suppose, first of all, just to thank you for having me on your podcast, because as I mentioned to you, this would be completely out of my comfort zone to do something like this. And I'm a little bit nervous, but I'm sure it'll be a chat, and I'm looking forward to it at the same time. But I suppose if 2020 has taught me anything, it's to embrace every and all opportunities that come our way. And I set myself a challenge at the start of this year to do just that. So it's a real compliment to be on your podcast. So thank you for that. So where do I start? There's quite a lot. My business is Maybury Marketing, and it's actually a newly rebranded business. I've actually been self-employed since 2005, so nearly 16 years now.
Brilliant.
My personal life, I'm married to a dairy farmer, We have 3 girls, Alice, Grace and Ella. So right now we have a lot going on between homeschooling and work and trying to juggle all that, and that's definitely a challenge. And I'd love to tell you a little bit more about my business and maybe my background and where it all came from.
Please do. Yeah, you said you've been self-employed since 2005. Maybe if you could talk us about maybe your education and before you went self-employed, tell us how you transitioned and then your whole career as a self-employed person, because you've been self-employed for quite a long time, which is super impressive. A lot of business owners or self-employed people don't really get off the ground. What do they say? 90% of businesses fail. I'm not sure if that's 100% true or not, but it's a real accomplishment. So fair play to you.
Thank you. I suppose I'm going to bring it right back to maybe my parents and where my inspiration comes from. So my parents have been in business for as long as I can remember. They've been in business before I was ever born. I could spend the whole podcast telling you about their business ventures, and it would be very entertaining. But I'm going to go back to when I'm the youngest of 5, first of all. So when I was a baby, I was only 4 weeks old, my parents bought a hotel.
Wow.
In West Cork, in Dunmanway. It was the Parkway Hotel. It's the Parkway Hotel now. It was previously the Bostonian Bar. So my parents had always been in business. They had a shop. It was called On the Main Street. So they had a house and a little shop in the front room, which would have been very typical back in the, say, 70s. And at the time, there was actually a parish hall right across the road. And my father would run dances in the parish hall, like the local show bands, Bryn Shine, and a few of those would have come there. So that would have been a big thing at the time.
Yeah.
So this hotel came up for sale. It was going for auction. And bear in mind, I was 4 weeks old, the youngest of 5. So my father said to my mother, I think we should buy the hotel. She said, are you mad? Are you mad? We have enough going on. No. And she said, we don't know anything about running a hotel. What are you talking about? Sure. No. So anyway, he went to the auction. It was on the 25th of May, which is his birthday. So he always, if anyone says, geez, when do you buy the hotel? He'll always say the 25th of May. So I'm really inspired by them because they worked tirelessly. They worked so hard and built up that business. A couple of years later, they built on, so the hotel at the time would have been very typical of a West Cork hotel, a bar, a lounge, a dining room, and a handful of bedrooms.
Yeah.
They built an extension of a ballroom, like a function room and a ballroom, because the show bands would have been massive at the time. And my upbringing was seeing the likes of Daniel O'Donnell or Christy Moore or Aslan or Saw Doctors, they've all played there over the years. And also they built the business up to be very popular for weddings and functions like dinner dances and so on. So that was kind of my upbringing. And my parents retired from the hotel in 91, and my brother Martin and his wife Sheila and their family now run it. So it's still in the family, which is great. But my parents didn't retire. They took on other businesses. So and I wouldn't even go into all of what they did. So for me, because of my childhood and growing up in a hotel, I thought, nah, I'm never going to work in a hotel. I'm never getting into this.
Run a mile.
When I was doing, little did I know that wasn't going to be. when I was doing my Leaving Cert and filling out my CEO form, I actually wanted to be a veterinary nurse. But my career guidance teacher, Pat Spillane, said, no, I don't think so. No, he would have known me and he would have worked for my family over the years and would have known my upbringing. So he obviously saw something that I didn't. So I put business studies on my CEO form and I got a place in Tralee Institute of Technology. Loved it. I spent a couple of years there, made great friends. Sure, I loved the college crack. I would have been working part-time in the hotel at the time, in the Park Hotel. And my sister, when I finished college, my sister was living in London, my sister Karen and her husband Martin. So I went over and worked there for a while. I was just doing secretarial temping work. Great experience and great fun. I enjoyed that. So at some stage I was home maybe for a week or whatever it was. And I saw a job advert for a hotel receptionist in a hotel in Cork City. Mm-hmm. So after saying, no, I'm never getting into hotels. But anyway, I went for the interview, got the job. So I started, so that was really, I suppose, the start of my career. Started as junior receptionist, moved up the line, senior receptionist, front office manager. And then I would have got a role as in the group role. And my title was Group Systems Manager. So this would have been like the late 90s, early 2000s. And it was when online bookings were really only just evolving. They were only just coming into play. Like Expedia and Booking.com were only founded in 96. So this was all relatively new. So my job was to go around to each of the hotels all over Ireland and the UK and train the staff on how to basically work these new systems that were coming into play.
Right, yeah.
So I was with Choice Hotels for 7 years. I absolutely loved it. I have some amazing friends and colleagues over the years from my work with in Choice. So then I moved jobs after 7 years, and I started to meet independent hoteliers who didn't know anything about online bookings, and it was all quite daunting to them, I suppose, because they didn't have any experience of it. So the penny dropped. I thought, okay, they need help. I have the expertise. So I decided to set up a consultancy business to basically help these hotels to understand more about online bookings and how they could get business from it. So in June 2005, NetAssist was born. So that was my company name, NetAssist. I remember I must have been at a family function or something, and I remember telling all my family, oh, this is what I'm doing. I'm giving up my job and setting up a business. And like, there's a few, a lot of my family are entrepreneurs, so they were like, yeah, absolutely, you should go for it. My mother, now being the typical Irish mammy, said, what, you're giving up? You're giving up a job to do what? I don't know. Are you mad? And 20 years later, she still asks, what do you actually do for the hotels? But anyway, it was a good move, and I had great support from my friends. And you know what? I think you need all of that. You can't do these things on your own. You have to have people kind of behind you, pushing you on and saying, yeah, you can do this, or just even a sounding board if you're not sure about things. So you have to do your research. I had researched what hotels needed and what I could give them. And hence, like I say, June 2005, NetAssist was born. So fast forward about 15, nearly 16 years now. I'm still doing that same work for hotels. It has changed slightly because of COVID, but I would still be working with hotels all over Ireland and the UK on exactly that. It's constantly evolving because the nature of online bookings, everything is changing constantly. But I would still have all of that going on. But you're not 15 years in business without having a few other tales and a few other avenues, I suppose, to talk about. So about 4 years ago. So first of all, I would be in my group of friends or in my family, whatever, I'm the organizer. I'm the one who organizes if we're going somewhere and who's, basically put it all together, which I love. That doesn't mean I'm an organized person, but I'm a good organizer. And yeah, you know what I mean? So about 4 years ago as well, I had organized a few different fundraising events, quite big events that had raised thousands for local charities. And just because I enjoyed doing it, it was something I liked to do. So I was approached by a school in Bantry to ask if I would help them to organize a Strictly Come Dancing fundraiser. Now, initially I said, no. Because I thought, what do I know about? I know nothing about Strictly. And this was doing it for somebody else, not doing it for myself. I kind of had someone to answer to.
Yeah.
But anyway, I said, look, I'll do it. I'll I saw it as a one-time challenge. I said, right, I'll do this as a challenge and see how we get on and whatever. And it was a huge success. The first year we raised over 36,000 for a primary school in West Cork,
Brilliant.
which was a massive fundraiser. But what I really didn't realize at the time, me thinking foolishly it was just going to be a one-time challenge, is that opened up massive opportunities for me. So prior to that, like I say, all my clients have been Ireland, UK, way up the country, not local at all, or very little local. And this opened up massive opportunities for me locally. So I suppose my name, I started featuring maybe in press or social media, so I became more recognizable maybe locally, and more organizations came to me for help to organize events. And then I also discovered I absolutely love PR. You know, if I was promoting an event, either be social media or with the press, writing press releases, I discovered I absolutely love that.
Brilliant.
And I just became, I like, local businesses had come to me then and said, look, will you help me promote my business, be it online or just in general, you know, product launches and different things like that. So that opened a whole new line of business for me. So it was event management, PR and general marketing. So fast forward another little bit. So at the end of 2019, I was wearing two hats. I had my Net Assist, which was my hotel clients, and all of that was going really well. And then I had Plantastic, which was my event management, PR and marketing. And I knew it was getting a bit confusing. If I was meeting people or if I was networking, I'd always kind of think, what hat do I have on now? And my Nest, like, I used to struggle with that. What do you do? Because I do so much. I mean, it's so varied. So I knew that I would have to merge the two businesses, but at that stage I was like, when am I even going to get time? Start January 2020, really strong year, a lot of events in the books. I had lots of different businesses who just needed help with general marketing, and I also had my hotel, so it was busy. And then to talk about COVID and how that has changed everything. So we were in our third year of the Strictly Come Dancing in Bantry, and it's run over 2 weekends. So we have a semi-final on the 7th of March, which was sellout show, 550 people, massive success. Yeah. And the final show then would have been held the following weekend, the 14th. So COVID had coronavirus, as we were calling it then. People rarely refer to it as that now. There was rumblings of this cases in Ireland and how it's going to affect events and so on. And the week between the semi-final and the final, in all honesty, felt like a month. There was constant, you know, emails and texts and phone calls with myself and the organising committee and the school and so on to say, Jesus, what do we do? Because we had that kind of sense of, should we pull this? We were so close to the final, you know. Yeah. On the Thursday, Leo Varadkar made his announcement about events were going to be shut. Basically, no events over 100 people indoor. So the decision was taken out of our hands to cancel the final. So if I'm honest, it was a relief because we didn't have to make that decision, but it was a disaster. Do you know what I mean? It was devastating because everything was ready. It was fully sold out, 550 people, dancers ready to go, their teachers ready to go. Everything was, we were 2 days away from it. So you can imagine now. God. Yeah. So 2 days away from it. So what followed then was the arse fell out of the pot, basically.
Yeah.
I had any events that were on the books gone. They weren't going to happen. In terms of the hotels, like within a few weeks, hotels were then closed. And they remained closed up until the 29th of June. So obviously they didn't need my help because they weren't selling any rooms. And, you know, businesses that I had been working with closed. So literally my business stopped still. And how did I feel about that? I panicked. I've never had that experience in my whole life of not knowing how I'm going to pay my bills, you know, not knowing where, not having business coming in. I literally panicked. So yeah, I had a few weeks of what I call moping about with the kids, you know, board games and lots of movie nights and lots of walks and all of that. And it was all, lovely, but it wasn't sustainable. And I knew I had to fight back. I knew I had to do something about it. So I had been talking about this rebrand and bringing the two companies together, the two businesses together under one. So I contacted my local enterprise office and I got supports to help me to rebrand my business. So by May 2020, Maybury Marketing was launched. And people say to me, oh, you have a new business. But in a way, it's not a new business. It's the same business I've always had, but it's under a new name. And I'm really like delighted with how well the business was received and the rebrand was received, because I've started getting so many inquiries and so many new clients locally who've said, you know, I didn't know that's what you do, because my name, I suppose my business name was confusing before that. I didn't know that's what you do, and I'd love some help with, be it social media or just generally promoting their business or giving them advice on what they can do. So in a very short space of time, I was back up and running, which I'm delighted about.
That's brilliant. And I just want to touch back on the whole, when you were going through, well, everyone was going through coronavirus, and the book stopped, business stopped, dead in its tracks. And obviously you said you were moping around like everyone else was as well. How did you process those feelings? Because I'm very interested in finding out, because myself, sometimes I find it hard in the moment to catch myself stressing out. And so it would be good to hear how you kind of manage that yourself. Like, do you have good stress management in place, or is it your network that you leaned on? Maybe it was your family. Tell us how you kind of processed all that information, because it was uncharted territory at that time. You know, no one knew what was going on.
Yeah, I think, if I'm honest, I definitely thought it was a flash in the pan. I thought, it's going to be all over now in a couple of weeks, because I'm an optimist. I thought, oh, listen, what's all this drama about? It's going to be over. What I didn't expect is that here we are a year later, still in it. So how do I process it? I would be kind of one of these people who thinks, if you can't change it, then don't stress about it, if you know what I mean. And everyone was going through it, so I would have a really good network of other women in business who we bounce ideas off, and just have a little WhatsApp group where we can say, like, I'm finding this hard, what are you doing? So that's definitely helped. And just knowing that they were all in the same boat and seeing what they were doing. So they were fighting back as well. And they were saying, right, like, their businesses online, which was, you know, there's inspiration in that, because you say, right, well, if they can do it, yeah, you know, I can do it. There's definitely that kind of support network. So I think the initial panic, I did stress, but then I do feel as well that the government were a great support for self-employed people. You know, like, my business has survived through the last recession, where loads and loads of businesses did fail, they did close because they had no choice. And that's something I'm very proud of. But I feel this time around, the government have really supported self-employed people, whereas I feel not so much the last, when there was a recession, we'll say. So that I suppose was maybe peace of mind in a way, that when I was working on rebuilding my business, you had a little bit of support there as well. So yeah, I suppose not to stress too much about it would be how I deal with it.
That's good. And I'd like to know a little bit more about your approach to networking. I suppose maybe we can transition and talking about your network, how you've built it, how you find, like you said there, you have a group of girls that you have a chat with, and you see how each other is doing in their business, and you support each other. Talk to us a little bit how networking is important to you.
Great. There's two things to me here now. There's my network and there's networking. So my network, I'm trying to think when it was, maybe September 2019, I think, I did a women in business course. Now, like so many other self-employed people, I work from home on my own, and I didn't actually realize how isolating that is until I met this group. Okay, so it was a women in business course run over 12 weeks. We'd meet once a week, and you're meeting other women who have set up their own business or in senior management or whatever it would be. And I found them to be a massive support to me, because I learned loads from them. They'd say, oh, I'm using such and such an app, or this is how I do whatever. And it would end up saving me loads of time. And even like we still have this WhatsApp group where I can say, someone might say, you know, I need to change my laptop. What would you recommend? Or they might say, oh, have you heard about this grant or whatever it is? So there's definitely been a massive support. So they've been a great support network to me. There's 12 of us in the group, and I absolutely adore every one of the other ladies. We, you know, we really hit it off. But the other support network I have is about, I think I want to say 4 years ago, I'm not sure, I joined Network Ireland West Cork. It was the newest branch of Network Ireland. So Network Ireland is an organisation that supports women in business. So I joined because it was a West Cork branch, and I thought, yeah, I'll go with this. So if I talk about my network, I'm on the committee. So by being on the committee and being a member anyway, I got to meet loads of other women in business. And again, it ties into that. I didn't realize how isolated I was until I met all these people and what I've learned from them.
Yeah.
But then if I talk about networking, right? So I would have gone to these networking events, right? And this is no exaggeration. I would find the one person in the room that I knew. I would make a beeline for them. I would cling on to them for the whole entire event, talk to them and no one else, make no effort to talk to anyone, make no effort to actually network, because I was totally uncomfortable with networking. It does not come naturally to me at all. But over time you get to meet people. And actually, if I talk about networking, for me, I always felt that networking was about selling your business. And everyone's different, but for me, it's not about meeting someone and say, oh, this is what I do. Almost like you're selling to them. Do you want me to do something for you? Do you want me to, can I help you? But I've now discovered that networking for me is just meeting people. It's just meeting people in similar situations where they get to know you, and then they get to know what you do. And I think it evolves from there. So I definitely have taken a much different look on networking over the last couple of years. And I would be more comfortable with it now. It's not all about selling for me.
Yeah, I think you're dead right there. I think it's all about building deeper connections with people. It's all about building deep relationships, because like if you go to an event, or even you might get it yourself on LinkedIn, some random person messages you offering their services. Like, whoa, who are you? That way.
Yeah.
So yeah, you just have to treat kind of networking like you're just curious about the people. You want to find out about them. It's not about you, it's about others, that way. So as you get to find out about people, that's where the relationship is built. So no, yeah, I think you're dead right there. That's really good.
It's not to be desperate to sell. Like, it's just because, I don't know, my business, thankfully, in touch wood, has always more or less always come from referrals, where you do a good job for someone and they get to talk, so it's all word of mouth. So I've never really done that hard sell. So that's why I was never comfortable with it, as in like, what do you do? Now, that's not to say, people will still ask you that question, what do you do? And I go, oh, right, well, I help businesses, because I suppose my business is so varied. I have different elements.
Yeah. Because you have so many different elements in your business, there's obviously a lot of time spent by you into constantly developing yourself as a businesswoman, improving your skills. Can you tell me how important developing yourself has been for the growth of your business?
Well, I think the day that you say, I already know everything, I don't need to learn anymore, is the last day you'll do business, because you have to keep learning. So for every element of my business, it keeps changing. Say the hotels, like all of the online booking engines, they all change, like they're constantly evolving, and the trends are changing. For social media, as you know yourself, the trends are changing all the time. So like I'll constantly do, well, now it's online courses, but I would have gone to courses about whatever, social media or whatever it is, different things. And you have to try to stay ahead of the trend and try, but it's not easy. It is not easy to spend that amount of time. And I don't spend enough time. I know I don't. I should spend more time researching and staying up with it. But absolutely, I believe that every day is a school day. Every day you learn something new.
Yeah.
And like I say, the day you think I know it all, then you're finished.
Yeah, I think especially entrepreneurs, business owners, they have to be lifelong learners. I think it's so important. Things change, that way. And if you take your foot off the gas, your competitors will leapfrog, that way. So yeah.
100%.
So Sandra, I'd like to ask you about imposter syndrome. I know I myself, as I've been growing my business the past 3 years, that there's been points where I'm kind of like, what am I doing here? Like, why are people even talking to me about doing business with me or letting me help them grow their business and stuff? You kind of have to pinch yourself, like, what the hell is going on here? Do you have any experience with imposter syndrome yourself, and how did you manage that?
Listen, I suffer from it every day. I'm on this podcast thinking, who is going to be interested in hearing my story anyway? Like
I am.
All the time, absolutely. And I think so many people, look, especially women in business, but like you say, you suffer from it as well. In marketing, I'm questioning what I should put up on social media, like a tip that I want to give my customers, because I'm thinking some other really big marketing person is going to come along now and say, no, you're wrong. You know, that there's that kind of self-doubt. Look, you can relate to it. So definitely I would suffer from that. And like, how do you deal with it? I suppose I'm getting better at it all the time. I think definitely through my network and that I've grown in confidence, and that has helped massively to be, you know, if you'd asked me to do this even last year, I would say, no, sorry, I don't know, I can't. It's not going to happen. Whereas you have to push yourself. You have to believe in yourself, and you have to push yourself. So you definitely, I all the time I think, oh God, what people will say, look, she won again, she's on about something, you know. But I suppose you have to get over that and just realize that not everyone thinks that way.
Brilliant. And it's also like that as well. Like I felt when I was starting my business, I was kind of like, who the hell, like, why am I even starting a business? Like, you know, I was 20, what age was I? A couple of years ago, about 25. I was like, who the hell is going to, like, I'm going to start talking to people about how they should do their website and run their online ads and everything. I was like, who's going to pay any interest in me? And at the start, there wasn't, because I didn't have any experience for Curtis Harley, the person like myself. I worked for other companies, of course, but had nothing behind me. But then once I got my first chance, and you kind of build up the reputation and the credibility, you do a good job. It kind of just word of mouth then, isn't it? It's
word of mouth. Absolutely. A referral is worth so much more than spending money on whatever. Now you have to spend money to advertise as well, but a referral, you know, it's instant. And when I started up very first day, so this was in the boom, right? And there was no selling involved at all whatsoever. What would happen is I would work with one hotel, and they would just they would say, how do you know about this? And they'd say, oh, I'm working with this lady, Sandra Maybury. And so much so that when I started out first day, my clients would pay me a month in advance. And I look back now and I think, how did I even manage that? You know, that there was no question at all whatsoever. Like, once you had that referral, you were in. So yeah, I don't know how I came up with that idea of getting paying in advance for services, but anyway, it worked. I think I must have been
well,
nervous
I think
or something.
It must have been that it was such an ideal time, and like you said, like booking.com and all these search or the booking systems, they were just kind of emerging, and you had the experience, you had real world experience doing this with bigger companies, so you were the go-to woman, and it paid off, you know, which is brilliant.
Yeah.
So fast forward into your business now, we're kind of hopefully we're at the tail end of COVID. What way do you see our business going over the next 6 to 12 months? What's your plan?
If I'm honest, I don't have a plan. I don't plan too far ahead. And again, last year would have been proof of that. But you do have to plan. I suppose you do have to. I always think, even on a monthly basis, like, who are my clients this month now, and you know what's coming in, and what's in the future, and how long will this one last, and different things like that. Like, how much can you do for them? So where do I see it going? Like, it's changed so much in the last 12 months. It's a bit frightening in a way. You know, I would have gone from being primarily, look, to be fair, it was a good mix, but a lot of hotel clients. But I'm seeing them come back now. I'm seeing them. There's a bit of optimism that they will be open for the summer, and they're starting to come back now and say, listen, I need a bit of help with setting our rates now for the year ahead. So I see that that's, if the hotels are allowed, if hospitality is allowed open, that's going to take off again. I think event management there's a long road to go there. I can't see that too much happening, definitely in the next 12 months for that. I'm getting regular inquiries from local businesses who just like that, and they'll say, I don't have time to promote my own business. I don't know how to, I don't have staff to do it, whatever it is. So I see that area of my business definitely growing. But like that now, if it continues the way it is, it's great. I recently took on a marketing intern. A lady.
Brilliant.
Yeah, really excited about that, because just to give someone a start. She's just fresh out of college. She's on a 15-week placement. Marion is her name, and I love that idea of helping someone who's young and new, and giving them that experience. And I have another girl, Aisling, who's doing a few hours for me part-time, and like that now I've seen how both of them, from the start to where they are now, how much they've learned and how much they have improved, we'll say. And I love that. I love being able to support?
Look, we're literally, it's me and my partner, Emma, she works in the agency as well, and we're looking to hire an intern, and it's all uncharted territory for us. It's a little bit for myself. I know I might show me in a bad light, but I'm just a little bit nervous. I think it's like a control thing. I just want to make sure that I want to make sure that I dedicate enough time to actually upskilling that person. I don't want them just to come in and just do a job. Like I want it to be a right fit, that way. So that's really interesting that you've done that. It's brilliant. So Sandra, before I let you go, would you have any advice for someone starting out in business? What would be the best way to approach?
Research is very important, and to do your preparations. It's the old saying, fail to prepare, prepare to fail. So you have to understand your customer as well. It's like an awful lot goes back to marketing, like understanding who your customers are and what are their needs, and then can you fulfill those needs. Then there's loads of elements to business. You obviously have to think of financials as well, and you have to think about hours and times. And I think a mistake actually that a lot of self-employed people is they don't allow for their own time. And I've done that over the years, absolutely. Like I think it's only in recent years I've really appreciated my time and charging for my time. But definitely a lot of self-employed people, if they're making something, it's about the cost of the products or the cost of the materials, whatever, and they don't even think about their own costs. So I just think you have to really be sure you've done your research and be sure you've prepared well. And like when I started out first day, I started nearly approaching businesses before I ever set up my business, saying like, is this something that you would need? Is this something that you would use? So do your customer research is one thing I would say.
Yeah, so I think that's some good points. Obviously, marketing is important for any business, but especially startups. You need to find out if you can actually provide value. Yeah, brilliant stuff.
Yeah.
So before I let you go, is there anywhere online that you want to direct people to? Would it be your website? Can they catch it on social media? What's your favorite social media channel?
So I would use LinkedIn for business to business. And I'm also on Facebook and Instagram under Maybury Marketing, and my website, mayburymarketing.ie. So, and look, I'll be delighted to chat with anyone, even if it's only just someone needs a bit of advice on something, I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, definitely. Well, once again, Sandra, thanks very much for taking your time, and I really had a great chat with you.
And likewise, thank you, Curtis. I appreciate it, and I enjoyed it. Thank you.